what you need to do is remove the extra stuff. Remove that and let your talent shine through. So my principle is helping people get out of, whether it's golf, other sports, business consulting, helping people get out of their own way to get the most out of their talent, the most out of their abilities.
Yep. Welcome back to AST's It's All Mental podcast. I'm your host, Eddie Cecilia, and today we have a little bit of a different format. Our founder, Zen Madrid, is going to be interviewing Dr. Joe Parent, a highly recognized expert in performance psychology, especially in sports. As you'll listen in the interview, he's also the author of Zen Tennis, Zen Golf, and a couple of other projects that he has on the works. He has also been a crucial part in the development and success of a lot of highly recognized winners when it comes to golf. Well, with that being said, I hope you enjoy the interview.
Well, hey, thanks, Eddie. I appreciate it very much. Yes, I do have a special guest, a longtime friend. I met him through my son, Jeremy. Gosh, I don't know, it was probably 5-6 years ago. And I'd heard of him before. And I said, come on, Jeremy, you really, Dr. Joe Parent? And, me, golf, soccer, and basketball. And so Joe is the author of Zen Golf, which I read way before I ever met the guy. And then Zen Tennis, which I give to all of our tennis players in our AST Tennis Academy that we just kind of started, and Zen Diet. And then I'm going to let Joe talk about the children's book he just did with his sister and Disney. So, Joe, welcome to It's All Mental podcast. So glad to have you.
Jim, thanks. It's great to see you again, and it's an honor to be on the podcast with you. I'm really looking forward to our chat.
Okay, great. So will you do me a favor? I don't know. I might be putting words in your mouth, but I think when I last talked to you, you told me about the book you and your sister wrote for kids through Disney. Will you tell us a little bit about that? Because I know you're pretty proud of that one.
I really am. It's called A Walk in the Wood, Meditations on Mindfulness with a Bear Named Pooh. And excuse me, I'm going to slide back.
And reach into the park.
And reach into the park and be able into the 100-acre wood where Winnie the Pooh lives, and be able to show you a walk in the wood.
That's so awesome.
To peek out behind it, just like Winnie the Pooh.
Yep. Yeah. That's so great. I'm getting that book for my two sons.
We go.
Yeah, there you go.
See it.
I'm getting that book for Jeremy with his kids, and then my son Chase for his new little one, who's 2 years old. So that's so cool, Joe.
So my sister and I wrote it, and my wife, Megan, is a graphic designer for Disney. So she did the design. She did that beautiful cover and the interior, which is really, really wonderful. You see the gray pages,
yep,
and then the story pages. And the story pages are the 16 stories in a day in the life of Winnie the Pooh that my sister and I created. All original all new stories, because the original ones were done by A. Milne over 100 years ago.
Wow.
And they introduce Winnie the Pooh helping his friends be more mindful, more confident, more courageous, more grateful, more cheerful, all of the family values. So it's really a book for the family to read together. And those gray pages you saw were, after each chapter is an adult description of a meditation, an outdoor nature awareness practice, something that they can teach to their kids at the age appropriate level, and actually take them through a walk in the wood as an experience for them to increase their mindfulness, awareness, and immersion in the atmosphere of nature, which, given the situation on our planet today, we need more of that.
I got exposed to visualization and mindfulness when I was 15 years old, and I can't imagine what it would be like. And you and I both know, because at that earlier age, I do it with my grandchildren. I've been doing it coaching, and you and your professional career, to see the impact that it has with these kids. I remember coaching my son's sixth grade soccer team, And while the other team across the way was running drills and doing, we'd do the stretching. And then after we got done the stretching, I had them all laying on their backs, doing breathing exercises and mindfulness. And the other coaches and the parents are going, what's that guy doing? But it's really interesting how to this day, some of those young men now come to us and say, wow, I still remember that, doing that. And what a great concept that is. Because when
I have a student who, before he would tee off on his rounds, would put the little seat down on his golf cart that covers the wheel, and he would sit on it and he would meditate for a few minutes. He would do his mindfulness practice while all the other kids are hitting balls or putting. He was finished with that, and he left himself this extra 10 minutes, and he was recruited to play for UCLA when he was 14.
14.
So he made that big a difference.
To our audience, that's a great book. If you've got young kids, let's get them started now. I mean, why not? It does not hurt at all.
He was reading Zen Golf at the age of 12. So when I wrote Zen Golf, my intention was for it to be in very, very simple, accessible language. So no matter what your education level, no matter what your age level, I have 11-year-olds reading it. So it really is something that connects with all ages, from 8 to 88.
And Zen Golf, that's what I found about it. And I'm really apologetic. I've got it on audio book, which you did a great job on that. And I lent mine out to a friend of mine down just before I took a sabbatical, a little 1-month sabbatical for health reasons from golf. But he's got it right now. And he's called me up and say, hey, this PAR methodology, I love this whole PAR concept, Joe, a little background. How did you get started, and what possessed you to get started, especially around mindfulness and bringing that into performance and helping? And, as we both know, this is not just what's helping them on the golf course, tennis court, or any sport court or field, but also in life. What started it all for you?
Well, let's see. We'll start with golf. Okay. And I played since I was 10 or 11, but I learned from my father, who I found out later shot in the low 120s and didn't keep score that well. So I had a very homemade swing, but I loved to play. Right. I was in all organized sports, football, captain of the wrestling team, track, tennis, Little League baseball, but golf was the only one that I wasn't in an organized sport. And it was what we got dropped off during summer vacation at the golf course early in the morning and picked up just before dark, and 27, 36, 54 holes, as many holes as we could get in. And we just loved whacking the ball around and going and having fun. So fast forward to when I was 19 and started getting involved in Eastern wisdom traditions and mindfulness, the formal practice of mindfulness meditation, mindfulness and awareness meditation, and was on the staff of a Center for Buddhist Psychology, using Eastern and Western psychological principles together, because at that time I was getting my PhD in psychology. So I've always brought East and West together. Now, one of the people who came to the program was heading for Florida to be an assistant golf pro. He played on his college team. I said, let's go. Let's play hooky.
Yeah.
And we'll go to the golf course. And he said, tell me what my mind is doing on the golf course. And I said, I'll tell you if you tell me what my body is doing on the golf course.
Good trade-off. Good trade-off.
Fairways became our laboratory, and a lot of what's in Zen Golf came out of my work with him. And he's still a great golf teacher in Canada, one of the top instructors in Canada. But then, because I was doing this practice, I helped work with one of my main Buddhist teachers who had just gotten into the game. He's an American. His father had played when he was a kid, and he never did it, never wanted any part of it. And then suddenly he got introduced to it and said, when the ball flies into space, my mind opens up into space. And we start the fairways. I became his regular golf partner, and after each time a group of us would play, we would talk about mindfulness, awareness, golf, how those all go together, and that became the real basis for my work and for Zen Golf. So it's always a synthesis of Eastern psychology and Eastern philosophy and Western psychology, Eastern mindfulness practice, and Western golf instruction, all merged together. So it really addresses everything that we do. And I'm so glad you mentioned the PAR approach, because it was a way that I could communicate, and it's the structure of Zen Golf. The three main sections in Zen Golf, well, it starts with taking a different perspective, which is turning everything about how people approach golf and often other sports on their head. And that is about, instead of thinking that you need to get more because you're lacking something, I call that moron golf. When you keep adding more on because you don't believe you're good enough.
Right.
And
right.
it could be any other sport like that you keep adding more on because you don't think you're good enough. We turn it around and say, what you need to do is remove the extra stuff, remove that, and let your talent shine through. So my principle is helping people get out of, whether it's golf, other sports, business consulting, helping people get out of their own way to get the most out of their talent, the most out of their abilities.
Give me an example of getting people where they keep putting more on their golf golf.
It's very simple. When I do a corporate talk and I ask people to raise their hand if they've never felt like they got in their own way, whether it's at work or in golf or any of their activities, and no one raises their hand.
Right.
Like one person raised and says, "Oh, I thought you said always get in my own way." Not never. And then I asked another question. I said, when you've gotten in your own way, how many people performed better? And no one raises their hand.
Nobody, right?
Because I said, so we all have a common experience. We all have the common experience of trying too hard, of not trusting ourselves and getting in our own way, and therefore actually hindering our performance. So when I teach performance psychology, an example of getting in your own way is, let's say you're making a golf swing and you have trouble on the left side. There's out of bounds or a water penalty area, and you say, I don't trust that I'm going to hit it straight. So as you swing, you make a motion that prevents it from going over there. And yes, you prevent it from going to the left, but it makes it go way
right
off the planet to the right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That is getting in your own way, as opposed to giving yourself room to play and aiming for the right center of the fairway, and then just swing away to your target and trust your swing. There's your example.
Got it. And we've all done that.
Yeah. Always either not trusting that you're going to produce what you want, so you try to help it, like swinging extra hard because you're afraid you won't carry it as far as you want to, or preventing, which I described, or just not trusting and getting all guidey and helping. I've been watching the U.S. Open tennis, and it's really interesting how hard it is for players to close out a set or close out the match.
Right.
Players up 5-2. It's their serve.
It's their, and they're done. You think it's all over with.
Should be a no-brainer.
Right.
But suddenly they're guiding their serves in, and they're not going for the winners when the opportunity is, and they're playing to not make a mistake rather than playing to win the point.
Right.
Completely different game plan. They got there by being willing to take reasonable risks and trusting their full speed swings. And now they say, I'll just keep hitting it back until they make a mistake.
Yeah.
Totally wrong game plan, because now the other person has their back to the wall, they're going to be going for the winners.
They're going for the
And
winners. Exactly.
Then it's 5-3, then it's 5-4, then it's 5-5. Then they're in and now they're on their heels. And it's just like football. What do they say about a prevent defense? It prevents winning.
Right. Yeah, and so what we'll do is they start playing not to lose instead of playing to win. That old concept, the old adage of that. So, your approach. Oh, wait a minute. Let's finish par because I think the next piece too. So preparation is the first one, and then the second one is A for action.
Action.
Right.
And when I first thought of it, I said, well, in everything that we do, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Mm-hmm.
In the Eastern wisdom tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, it says, when you practice, make your practice good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good at the end. Good in the beginning means setting the proper intention. Good in the middle means maintaining your discipline. Good in the end means reflecting on what you accomplished, setting an intention to dedicate that for others as well, and your plans for the next action, the next preparation.
Right.
Now, so preparation, execution, response to results was per, and that didn't work so well. So what other letter could I use for execution? Well, there's par as a golf term, so action. Preparation, action, response to results. How do you best prepare for whatever performance you're going to engage in, whether it's a business presentation, whether it is a team sports event, whether it's an individual sports event like golf, whether it's just a conversation with someone, how do you prepare and set your intention for what you want to accomplish? Then the second is action. How do you act in a way that is free from interference, trusting, free? We talked about being in the flow, all of these things. And for an athlete, for anyone, it's all of the capabilities of balance, vision, acceptance, and exerting and being able to apply your talents. Then the last is response to results, and that is how you respond to the results. You want to reinforce the success and learn from the mistakes. And this is something that's in industry is called Kaizen, or the path of continuous improvement.
Right.
If something's wrong on the assembly line, you don't just keep it running and throw away the bad items. You stop the assembly line, you see what the problem is, you retool at the beginning. So in other words, you revise your preparation and then start the cycle again. And that way, PAR, the PAR approach, is a cycle of continuous improvement, that you use the results that you get to improve your process and continue to improve your performance that way.
Joe, which is such a great process that you have. And much like ours too, and you're a bit familiar with our program, when you get a pro athlete, let's say, or a collegiate athlete, I guess at any level, and they come to you, and my question is, why did you seek me out? Why did you seek us out? And what do you think is holding you back from being a lot better than what you are, right? And then you start with that, and you take that. One of the things I think that most of them come to us, and this is at any age level. A parent talked to me last weekend, and they said their daughter just really lacks confidence. They on the practice court, tennis player on the practice, she just crushes everything. But once she gets in a match, everything just falls apart on her, and she just lacks that match day confidence. And when I tell them, you're in great company. I have pro athletes making millions of dollars, and they're saying the same thing too. So how do you approach something like that? Given that they have reached out to you, they've told you something like that. How do you? What's your approach with them?
Well, to start with, most people come to me. In the golf world, there are so many advertisements for equipment. There's so many advertisements for the swing secret,
Or a new putter. Or a new putter.
Well, that's the equipment.
Right.
Here's this and training aids and all of these things, and then they've expanded it out into physical fitness improvements for flexibility, strength, balance, all of those things. The last thing is the mental game. So, in a certain sense, most of the people come to me as the last resort. I've tried everything else.
Mm-hmm.
You're Obi-Wan. You're my last.
Somebody called you. They knew the book and they go, "Oh, he's like Obi-Wan." I go, "Yeah, he's the Zen Golf guy. He's better than the Phil Jackson on the basketball court. This guy's better than that." So
Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. That's
right.
That's the Star Wars. So that's when people often come to me. Now, my start is a little different than yours. I start with a very open. It's almost like, I don't know if you're familiar with psychology of the Rorschach ink blots, which are random forms, and you ask people what they see, and it tells you what they expect to see.
Right.
So I just say, tell me something about your game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if they start with all the problems and all the negativity, then I know that's what they're focusing on.
Right.
And if they start by saying, well, I'm really good at this, and I'd like to get better at that, I go, there we go. Because usually they start with what's wrong. And I say, well, ask me. And I say, well, I'm really good at this, and I have some room for improvement in this, and the other. And these are the ones I'm working on, all positive.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't call it strengths and weaknesses. We call it strengths and areas where you have room for improvement.
Correct.
See, so that's how I like to start my sessions. And then instead of saying, well, now we know what we need to work on, I go, no. Tell me what makes you so good at what you are good at.
Yeah.
And I find some themes, and they say, well, when I'm driving, I can put it in the fairway almost every time because I really trust my driver. I trust my swing. But then when I get close to the green, so are you saying you don't trust your technique? Oh, that's it. Right. I don't trust the technique. Right. You see, so what I do is I want to take what they do well and then move it into the other areas. Because
third shot, yeah.
What I find is the things they do well, they can move those into the other areas. The things that are in their way are almost the same in things in their way in all different aspects of the game.
Right.
Now, the thing that you talked about, I wanted to get to. Why do I beat everybody in my practice rounds and then lose in the first qualifying round in the tennis tournament? Mm-hmm. Why? I have pros who say, I stripe it on Tuesday. I make tons of birdies in my practice round, even in the pro-am with the amateurs. And then Thursday comes, I'm 5 or 6 shots higher. What is going on? Now, in practice,
bunch of morons.
There are a couple. There are a couple of things. In practice, you're free because there's no consequence, and even on the range, you hit seven 9-irons or half a dozen 9-irons, and a couple of them are good, and you go, yeah, there's my game. You get on the course, you only get to hit one.
Yeah.
You go, what happened to my game? Well, what I explain to people is you're not as good on the range as you think you are because you're picking out the best one out of a half a dozen. And You're not as bad on the course as you think you are because you don't all have these perfect you have awkward lies, and it's not the perfect surface that you rake a ball over on the range. Now, when it comes to other sports, in practice, they free it up. Mm-hmm. What's the consequence of losing to somebody in a practice match? No consequence. You can say, I'm not even worried about it because I was trying out a new second serve, or I was trying out, seeing how hard I could hit my top spin forehand and keep it in the court.
Right.
Great things to try in practice. You don't do that in a regular match.
No, you're not trying that. I think I'm going to try something different right now that I've never tried before. Right.
Exactly. And in practice, if you miss one, you go, oh, lesson learned. I'm not going to try that.
I'm going to adjust my hand this way. I'm going to do whatever. Right.
Yeah. Now, and there's no consequence to the missed shot. And what you remember in practice are all the great shots you hit.
Right.
But when you get into the tournament, what you start to remember are the mistakes you made.
Right.
And then you go, ooh, and then you're playing to not make mistakes as opposed to playing to play your best. That's why the underdog in a tennis match, for example, always, gives it very often the chance this much higher ranked player loses the first set. And then they kind of get a wake up call and they go, oh, I can't just mail this in.
Right.
Because the other person is taking all the chances and going for it.
A soccer match, the worst score to have at halftime, they say, is 2-0. Because at halftime, the team that's up thinks they got it, and the other team is going to be applying the pressure. Hey, you guys are doing great, keep it up. And the other halftime, that coach is going, this is what we're going to do, and they're going off. Let me give you an example of just what you were talking about.
That's exactly the case.
There was a few years ago, I'm working with a high school basketball team, and we get into the state playoffs. And the first game we're an away game. We're the visiting team. It's crazy, right? The school is jumping. It's hostile. And I'm looking at the players as they're doing a shoot around before the game. And I pulled over 3 of the top players and I said, hey, do you guys, as I'm looking up at them actually, and I go, do you guys remember that when you were 8 years old and just before the game, the coach said, hey, if you guys win today, I'll buy you. And one of them pushes me on the chest and says, ice cream? I go, yeah, ice cream. He goes, ah. So in the first half, one of the players couldn't hit a free throw to save his life. In the second half, he's out now up to the free throw line. He's right in front of the bench. And I told the bench, do what I do. I yelled out his name because the referees are over at the scoring table. I yelled out his name, Joe, and we all went like this. He went 6 for 6 the rest of the game. Got out of his way.
Yes, exactly. He turned into the 8-year-old. And that's what we want to play with, that kind of freedom and trust and joy.
Yeah.
We have that way. And that's the turning point as kids get older. And that's what I have to work with. I coach parents as much as I do the kids.
Yeah.
Say,
totally.
Look, you can't take the joy out of this for them.
No.
You want to help them keep that joy and not burn out on whatever sport it is.
Look at the age level. Look at the age level where these kids start dropping off, that 15, 16. Georgetown University in 2015 did a study of why kids play sports. Because it's fun. Why kids don't play sports anymore? Because it's not fun anymore. And it was too much pressure from the coaches and too much pressure from the parents.
Right.
It wasn't a joy anymore.
Exactly. So that's a big part of my work as well.
So you've had some great successes of late this year at the Masters. Can you share a little bit about what you experienced with him? And I'll let you talk a little bit about that. Is that okay?
What I like to do as far as that goes is talk about general principles.
Yeah. No, don't get into that. I agree with you. I agree.
But things with individuals, the wonderful Masters experience that I had in the past was working with VJ.
Yeah.
With Hideki, I mainly have talked to his translator and not worked with him directly. We just enjoyed our picture together.
Isn't that fun though, to be able to, and that's such a compliment to your talent and your expertise, Joe, that is to be able to share that knowledge and experience even through a translator and not even have the one-on-one with him, but to be able to do that. And, and again, and I've talked to you before, it's just a part of his puzzle that helped, get to the level where he's at. And VJ, I'm sure, and all the other athletes, not just in the pro level, but all the other athletes that you've worked with, is that, it's just a part of the puzzle. Like you said earlier, it's the technical, it's the tactical, it's the physical, but probably most important thing that they don't look at too much is that mental side of it. Why? And when you ask them what percentage of the sport is mental, they'll say 100%.
Well, mostly they'll say anywhere between 50 and 90.
Right.
But what I say, and then when they say, I say, well, I like to say it's 90% mental and 10% mental.
Yeah.
Because it is 100% because your mind runs everything that you do, whether it is in sports, in business, in your life. And it's not separate from our bodies. That's the thing that people need to understand. We are a mind-body system, and you can't say, well, there's the mind part over here and the body part over here. I had students who decided they would just work on the mental game, and they went out and without clubs or balls and played imaginary golf. And of course, they made birdies and eagles all the way through, and they're standing on the 18th fairway. And one says, "I think I'm away," and he pretends to. He said, "It's about 180. That's just an easy 8-iron for me." And takes his imaginary swing, and he goes, "Oh, it's in the hole." The other guy said, "You lose," and he says, "How come?" He said, "You hit my ball." So it's not just. It's not. You can separate the mind and the body and the equipment and the field of play. It's a unified field of experience. And when you talk about it as a unified field of experience and a mind-body system that's encountering that unified field of experience, then it's a holistic, everything's a whole rather than broken up into parts. And that's the only way things can flow. If you try to break your swing up into parts and little pieces, it becomes very robotic. There's no flow to it.
There's no flow.
Same thing when you do drills in tennis or soccer or any sport. You can't just do the drills and say, now go play your game. You have to put the talents, the skills, I call it drills for skills to groove a move. And once you've grooved that move through the drills for the skills, you then have to put that into performance of playing shots, not just making golf swings, of playing tennis shots, not just making tennis swings. And the same thing, playing a basketball game and a soccer game, not just individual little moves in the game for your footwork. You need those to build up your repertoire of abilities. But then the key is to trust those abilities and let them out.
And let them out. Have fun. Yeah.
Right.
And that's flow. That's, what was the Kevin Costner movie? What was it? The Natural, when he was on the mound and the place is going crazy. The fans are cheering.
I think that's Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams.
And he was Robert Redford.
Yeah. And he goes, whatever the trigger was, and he went silent,
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not thinking about, like that young basketball player, in the second half, he was thinking about ice cream. He wasn't thinking about not making the shot. He wasn't thinking about, if we make these, we're going to go on to the next level. He wasn't thinking about, am I going to be taken out of the game? And, my girlfriend watching me, my parents, and maybe some college coaches. Now, all of that is, like you said earlier, is more on your side, more on. So those kind of things.
And I think that the wonderful thing about that is if you're doing that and you have your mindfulness of your experience in the moment, then you take away one form of interference, which is, what is this for? Right? What's the difference between set point and any other point? The tennis court, the size of the court doesn't change. They don't crank the net up higher.
No, they don't. And they don't make the balls heavier. Yeah.
They don't. No, they don't do. There's no physical difference to that serve than any other serve, except when you add on what it's for. And if you remove what it's for, your body doesn't know.
Right.
The tennis ball doesn't know what this point is for. The tennis racket doesn't know what this
No.
point is for. The
The
net
tennis
doesn't
net doesn't know anything, neither
net
does the
doesn't know
court.
what this
None of that.
point is for.
So you
know?
said this a few years ago. We were talking about golf.
Take away what it's for.
Yeah, you said this a few years ago when we were talking about the game of golf. There was two things I remember. One is I hate it when you get up on the green and you're shooting for birdie, and everybody around says, Madrid, you're shooting for birdie. And I have to look at him and go, there's one guy, I tell him to shut up. I tell him, no, you know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to put this little, I golf with little green balls. I'm trying to put this little green ball in that little white cup over there with that pole sticking out. That's what I'm trying to do. And and they all go, yeah, that's kind of a good way of looking at it, you know? And the other one was,
go ahead.
And the other one was when I told you we snuck on a golf course locally here in my neighborhood, and it's closed. It's a private club, and it's walking distance from my house. And on a certain day, I won't tell the name of the club. On a certain day, they take that day off once a year. There's no groundspeople, nobody there. But they take all the pins out. And I think I told you, if you remember this, I go, you would be amazed how many times I hit the green, on my approach shot better than trying to go for the pin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Two things. One, there was a study many years ago on a college sports, program, academic program, that they did an experiment with a local golf course that all the members agreed to. And they showed up, everything was prepared exactly the same way it would be on any Sunday, except no flag sticks. And everybody shot their handicapper better.
Really?
Yeah, because of that very reason. They said, let's just put it on the green. Now, if I may, would you like an observation of a little lesson on what you said about golf?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, please.
So we took away the what it's for, that it's not for birdie. Because I described to my players, I said, okay, I'm going to describe a situation to you. There's a ball on the green. It's 6 feet from the hole. There's a slight left to right break. What's it for? Birdie, par, or bogey? And they go, well, if it's 6 feet away, it's probably to save par. I said, what makes you know that? I don't know. I said, no, all I said was there's a ball, this length of grass on a hole. You can't tell what it's for.
Yeah.
So that's how I want you to approach it. It's a ball, this length of grass, and a hole. Now, my correction for you is your job is not to get the ball in the hole. You told them that was your job.
Right.
Now, this is what makes golfers crazy. They think their job is to get the ball in the hole. Okay. Mm-hmm. But if I say, well, I really want this to go in, so I'm going to pick it up and walk it over and place it in the hole. Am I allowed to do that? No. Am I allowed to put the putter behind the ball and slowly shovel it all the way till it goes in?
No.
So this is what makes you crazy. So I tell people, so you're telling me my job is to put the ball in the hole, but I'm not allowed to put the ball in the hole. Oh. That's what makes me crazy.
Yeah.
What are you allowed to do? You're allowed to get the ball started rolling. That's your job. It happens here. The hole's over there.
Right.
Your job is only here. And if it leaves the putter the way you want it to, that you like the speed it went on, the line it went on, the stroke you put on, that's a nice roll of the ball, you made your putt. Then you see if it goes in. That's if you hold the putt. Now, that makes it even easier to do your job. Because if you are 8 feet away from the hole and you're a PGA Tour player, you're probably going to miss that hole half the time. Whoa! You're one of the best players in the world, and you're going to miss half the time. That's not very confidence building.
No.
But how often, what percentage of the time will you get that putt started just the way you want to? And if you read it right and got the speed right, it goes in. And if not, it's close. That you can do almost every time. So that's why my latest book is called How to Make Every Putt. You can make every putt. You probably won't hole every putt, but you can make it if you take making the putt as getting your job done, which is starting.
I think that's absolutely huge concept, and thank you for correcting me. But you're absolutely right. I was playing in Texas at the Cowboys, and it was on the 8th hole. And you want to talk about this green had I mean, it was just a huge downhill. I was down over here. I had to bring it up and then come back down, and it was all about. I had no control of it once it left my club. I had, you're absolutely right. I have no control of it. I can't put it around. I can't go grab it, run over and grab it and put it in the hole because I think it's going to be missed. That's such a strong concept. And again, we just don't think of things like that. We think about you're putting for birdie, or you're putting to say par, or, or, oh God, I say bogey.
The result, you're thinking about the outcome,
right,
rather than the process of getting it started.
Right.
And outcome is the main source of interference. If you want to serve in tennis and you're worried about whether it's going to go in or not, you're not going to make a free release. But if you say, my job is to move the racket through the ball just the way I want to, and if it goes in, it goes in. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I executed what I executed. Then you serve with power.
Right.
Otherwise, you get guidey.
Start pushing it.
No
instead. Right. So
then they will put it away on you.
Yep. So both sports, and you've dealt so much with tennis and other sports, but mainly with golf and tennis. The last chapter you talk about the game is an honorable game, and I take, and when I listen to that, I took away that it's me as my character. We talk about sportsmanship, all the time, and therein lies too, I think, so many times, Joe, I've had people come into a corporate world, give a talk, use sports analogies, they do an evaluation, and you get the mass majority are positive responses, and you got 2% that says, oh, you talk too much sports. And I've learned to take that feedback and say, hey, you've heard a lot about what I do, so I'm going to share some concepts. I'm going to use the sports analogies because that's my, forte. And hopefully you can see the connection between the two. And I think that there's so much, and our business is more on the youth side, is that we're teaching good character through any sport is so important.
Absolutely. And, I work with a lot of juniors. I love working with juniors because if I have a 15-year-old and I can impart these principles of character to them, I've made a 60-year investment. But a 60-year-old, I only get a 15-year investment.
Right.
So, and when they're nervous because they're performing in front of coaches, I say, one, they've seen all your scores in this digital age. Mm-hmm. So don't worry about that. What they're looking for is how you handle yourself, how you conduct yourself.
Yep.
And if you have a bad hole, that's not the worst thing in the world. A lot of coaches will say, I'm really glad I saw that because I wanted to see how you bounce back, how you handle it and come back from adversity. Mm-hmm. And if you just play great golf the whole time, I don't see how you come back from adversity.
Right. Exactly.
And I want to do one shout out, if I may, of a gentleman of incredible character, and that is my co-author of Zen Tennis, Bill Scanlon, who sadly passed away earlier this year. Yeah, he was famous for upsetting John McEnroe in the U.S. Open. He did both. He upset him in the score, and he upset him. in that Bill was a much lower ranked player and John was ranked number 1 in the world, and he got in the zone, and Zen tennis is called playing in the zone. That's the subtitle. And Bill was a man of impeccable character and tremendous sense of humor and personality and caring. Yeah. He became a very caring teacher after he retired from playing professionally. So to my co-author, my heart and memory, It's such a sad loss, so before his time. And let's keep in mind, if it's a good day if I'm looking down at the fairway instead of up at the fairway.
There you go. That's a good one.
Let's keep our perspective on things.
Shall we? I mean, really, it really should be. And I'm sorry to hear that. I got to listen to him on the Zen Tennis and love listening.
Yeah, we have his voice. We still have his voice.
That we do. Yeah, absolutely. Joe, thank you so much. And I look forward to doing some more work with you and doing some other making a positive impact in youth sports. And your work has been admired by a lot. And when my son got to know you and Jeremy got to know you and talked so highly of you, and then we got to meet a few times, and you meant a lot to him and Jamie, and I appreciate that very, very much. I wish you all the best, and more from Joe Parent, Zen Golf, Zen Tennis, A Walk in the Wood with Winnie, and one we didn't get to, but I've learned a lot from that one too, is Zen Diet, which is a great book. So just a few words about that. Just a few words.
I had to, for humor, I had to call it the best. I call it the best diet book ever, because I know people. There's so many diet books out there, and if somebody Googles, or whatever, and searches for it, they're gonna type in best diet book. So my title is going to come up. Best diet book ever.
Yeah,
but the subtitle is the Zen of losing weight, and it's really more than just losing weight, but it's the Zen of finding the balance and how you relate with food. And if you do it in a mindful way, what you find out is you eat less and you enjoy it more.
Enjoy more. Yep.
Enjoy it more.
Yep.
And you eat less. You know how and when to exercise, and you find opportunities that you normally wouldn't think of as exercise. So you're always working on the mind-body system.
Right.
It's all about mind.
I learned so much from you on that one, and I love to cook. We're foodies around this house. In fact, the construction that's going on right now is the new kitchen. So as soon as that's done, Dr. Parent, you're down here. You're coming down for an Orange County retreat, okay? But one thing I noticed too was my taste was heightened. Which was that was amazing to me. Just a couple of things that you taught us and through the book.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Your mind focuses on different parts of your sense perceptions. Okay. So if you take a bite of food and you have your fork in your hand or fork and knife, and you're working on the next piece, that's where your attention goes, and it doesn't go
to what's in your mouth.
So one of the most helpful and suggestions that I have is, after you take a bite, set your utensils down. And when I tell people this, I don't even tell them what to do after that. What happens naturally, they set their utensils down and they lean back in their chair and they start enjoying what they're eating. And then when it's time for the next bite, picking it up again. I've even found if you have a sandwich and you really, it's going to be messy to set it down and pick it up. Even if you have to keep it in your hand, if you instead of using your muscles to hold your arm up, if you set and rest your hand down on the table, the same thing works.
You just lean back.
Bite more, and then you raise it up again. So whatever you're eating, if you set it down, enjoy the bite until you're finished, you'll taste more, you'll enjoy the food more, you'll chew it better instead of wolfing it down, which means your digestion will be better, and it'll process the calories through, and you won't gain as much weight from it. So it's win, 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 win all over the place. And that's just one little chapter in the book. So
and it's such a great one too. There is Dr. Joe Parent, Amazon.com. It's joeparent.com, isn't it? Is your website?
Joe Parent, drjoeparent.com. And there's also zengolf.com. And then I have an author page on Amazon. It's easy to find.
Really easy to find. Joe, thank you so much. I'm sure, because we're going to do this again, and this time we're going to get into this concept. Oh, it's mine. Are you kidding me? It's mine. And so thank you so much, Joe. And again, to Mr. Scanlon, he is lost, and I appreciate everything that you do, and keep it up, Joe. God bless.
Sure.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.